I do a few characters, but mainly I make it about the people in the room. I lean into my improv
Mm.
background and really do a lot of games, interactive games and things like that that feature the attendees. And I become a commentator at that point,
Yeah.
and what's my unofficial title is the facilitator of fun. So I just like to
Sure.
facilitate things in the room, get everybody going, and I want the people that I either bring on stage or I'm out talking to in the audience. I want them to be the star,
Yeah.
and it's so much. There's so much reward in that because
Oh, yeah.
laughter breeds connection, and that's what we all desire. God's made us for a relationship,
Yeah.
and so laughter breeds trust, which
Yeah.
then breeds connection.
Yeah.
And when I go out to my live events, that's my ultimate goal.
We believe that you are strong by design, and you were made in God's image to have a strong body, mind, and spirit. You're listening to the #1 strength and health authority podcast in the world. So let's get ready to unlock your potential and transform your life in today's episode. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Strong by Design podcast show. Hosting today, Coach Chris Wilson. So glad you've joined us. Always a pleasure to create a new podcast here on the Strong by Design and to talk with somebody I've never met before. And to learn a little bit more about what he's doing in the world. As you know, if you've listened to past episodes, our show is largely interview style, talking with men and women who are changing the world in some way, who are on a journey that's interesting, that's exciting, that's different, that's transformative, and that's oftentimes is really inspiring and can really, get you moving in a new direction in your life, or taking action in something. And that's what we're all about here. We believe that you're made in God's image to have a strong body, mind, and spirit here on Strong by Design. And for the last several years, we've just been so honored with our following and with our growth, and we're just so grateful for all of you listening, for sharing the show with friends and family, for leaving ratings and reviews. If you haven't done that yet, it means a lot to us. Just take a quick second and hit 5 stars or less, but we hope it's 5 on whatever platform you're listening, and even offer maybe a review of our show. That means so much to us and really helps make our show more visible. God knows there's a lot of podcasts out there, but we hope that ours is a regular one for you every week or so when we release a new episode. So our very exciting guest, I'm just coming to know a little bit more about this man. He works with somebody that has been on the show before. Mr. Kirk Cameron has been on the Strong by Design podcast, and we've had a lot of amazing men and women from Brave Books represented on our show over the years. And we have another one today by the name of Danny Adams. So great to have Danny on the show. He's a talented entertainer with over 30 years experience in performance comedy. This is right up my alley, really. I'm a bit of I'm like an amateur comedian, I guess. My wife at least thinks so. Throughout his career, Danny has become passionate about the power of laughter, as I am, believing it to be one of the greatest forms of medicine for children and adults. God knows we need more laughter in the world, especially the last 4 or 5 years. Danny's latest project is an exciting new kids TV show titled Iggy and Mr. Kirk, which I've come to learn a lot about in the last couple of months. Actually, I'm a huge fan of Frank Turek over at Cross Examined, who's been a guest many times on our show, and he recently did an episode with Kirk Cameron talking about Iggy and Mr. Kirk. This was released in February, and it's starring Kirk Cameron, Lee Allen Baker, and Danny Adams, our guest today. The series is designed not only to entertain, but also impart important biblical teachings in a way that's engaging for kids. Think of like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood meeting like the Muppet Show kind of thing, right?
That's
And which I grew up with Mr. Rogers in the 80s. He was my man. While teaching kids important life lessons, Danny's role as a mailman on the show, so he's the funny mailman, and he adds a lot of lighthearted humor and fun to the show. And if you watch his reel, which I'll make sure I share your reel in the show notes, people can get kind of a taste of what performance comedy is all about. So, Danny, welcome to Strong by Design. It's an honor to have you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great. Hey, we had a couple hiccups getting you on today, but we made it work because we didn't give up.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, modern technology, man, it's just it's ever changing, but we are here.
That's it. We're here,
We're
and thank you so much for pushing hard to make this happen. Sometimes people just go, "Oh, the heck with it! I got to go on. I got to move on to my next thing."
throwing the towel. No,
That's
it's
right.
good. It's actually I think just strong-willed. Like, no, we're gonna make this happen. I'm gonna talk to Chris today.
That's right. No, it was good. Yeah, I was on a phone call with Mackenzie and all kind. I mean, we got it going. So I want to know, how did you get started in show business? 30 plus years ago. What was the inspiration for you, or who led you to it?
Yeah, so I was born into it, Chris. I grew up in a family. I was the youngest of three kids, and my parents' family, we were singing evangelists. So we traveled around, primarily the Midwest, in our bus and sang the gospel. And we would also do comedy. We had these annual variety shows that we would do, and so not only were we singing, all the kids had to, we all learned a different instrument and
Partridge
sang.
Family. You were like
Very
the
much
Partridge
so.
Family.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. So we all did that, and then it was time for sort of the little sketches and skits that we would do. That's when I would light up. I played the drums, sang a little bit, but man, when it was time to bring the comedy, that's kind of what really just lit me up. And one of the things was learning at a young age what laughter did for people, that it
Yeah.
truly was medicine.
Yeah.
And when I would see, because even in the church, there's a heaviness sometimes with individuals who are going through things. Life isn't fair all the time.
Mm,
And when we would get on stage, me and my siblings, uh, there was just to see some frowns turn upside down, man,
mm,
that was everything to
yeah.
me. And I said, I think I made that decision early in my life to say, man, I'd love to live in this space forever.
Mm, yeah.
Because you really, when you heard feedback after your event, as a kid, there's a trust factor there that adults have. Maybe they've been hurt by other adults in their life, but there was an innocence with a child
Yeah.
that breeds trust.
Yeah.
And so not, so there's that, not to mention you do something funny and you see these adults just light up.
Yeah.
So I kind of made that commitment a long time ago, like outside of sports, which were huge in my life. Once I sort of set down that after a career, a short career in sports, I'm like, man, I want to get into this full-time entertainment and inciting laughter.
Wow. Yeah, and kids are just by nature so entertaining. They don't have to
Ah,
do a lot. You put
no,
some young kids up on a stage with an audience of adults, and it doesn't matter kind of if it's scripted or what they're going to do for the next 10 minutes. It's going to be entertaining.
that's right. It's going to be entertaining. And especially now, if you see a family entertaining together, wow, it's so amazing. Just because now, today's life of hustle and bustle and everybody on the go,
Yeah.
going a million miles an hour in every direction, to see a family together on stage, there's
Mm.
something powerful about that. And my brother actually took the mantle from what my parents did, and he and his family now do that and have
Oh,
been
wow.
for the last, I think, 3 decades now.
Oh my God.
So they're out, they travel and they do the same thing. So yeah, so I've been in it for a very long time. It's in the DNA.
Hmm.
And then, but I kind of took that to the next level when I became an adult. I spent some time out in Los Angeles studying comedy, studying my craft. And out there in Los Angeles in the Hollywood area, I piecemealed a lot of work together. But one of the things in terms of my comedy, I studied at the school called the Groundlings, which is equivalent to
Oh,
Second City, and
yeah.
it's improv comedy, sketch comedy.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So worked on it there, and then I developed a one man comedy show. Did that for about 3 years, and again, just kind of, these are all sort of original characters that I did. And nowadays, when I kind of transition into doing more live events on a regular basis, it's an interactive presentation. I do a few characters, but mainly I make it about the people in the room. I lean into my improv
Mm,
background and really do a lot of games, interactive games and things like that that feature the attendees. And I become a commentator at that point,
yeah.
and what's my unofficial title is the facilitator of fun. So I just like to facilitate things in the room, get everybody going, and I want the people that I either bring on stage or I'm out talking to in the audience, I want them to be the star.
Yeah.
And it's so much, there's so much reward in that because
Oh yeah.
laughter breeds connection, and that's what we all desire. God's made us for a relationship.
Yeah.
And so laughter breeds trust, which
Yeah.
then breeds connection.
Yeah.
And when I go out to my live events, that's my ultimate goal is how do we connect everybody?
This is great. My mind is like swimming with like things. I'm like, you're saying things, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're the youngest of three,
Yes.
and you were three boys.
No, it was, I have an older
Yeah.
sister, brother, and then myself.
Okay, so still, I'm the youngest of three, but
Aha.
it's all boys in my family. You played drums when you were a kid.
Yes.
I have pictures of me with a Muppet drum set when I was like 5, and in my Spider-Man pajamas, just banging on the
That's
drum. And I sold my drum set years ago because I just didn't have space for it in the house. But I'm a drummer, and you were a sports fanatic. Probably still are, at least maybe as a viewer of sport. But sports to me are huge. I coach baseball. I've been coaching baseball for 8 years.
yeah.
And so a lot of similarities. Like I'm just kind of in
Yeah.
my mind. I'm like, wow, I'm clicking with this guy. I mean, just
Come
so
on.
much. But laughter really is like I have memories. Some of the best memories of my life with family, with friends, with coworkers are when we had a big laugh together,
Mm.
and how bonded you become with those people in your life when you're like some of my best friends in my life I haven't talked to in years, but we were really tight for a while, and laughter was like a central part of our
Yeah.
friendship, and I still feel like very close and connected with those people, even if they might live out in. I'm in Florida. I got a friend in Vegas I haven't seen in years, but we stay in touch on social media and stuff. But if we saw each other, it'd be like no time had passed,
Mm.
and I feel like our bond came from laughter, from just this this desire to entertain each other.
Absolutely. Yeah. We had a lot of that in our home.
Yeah.
We, lots of laughter, whether it was us sitting around, doing some fun things or watching it on television,
Mm.
watching the old, variety shows on television. My mom, I never forget, every Friday night when Carol Burnett show
Carol
was
Burnett.
on.
That's what I was going to
Yeah.
say. Carol
Yeah.
Burnett. Yeah.
Carol Burnett, and Tim Conway. I mean, I grew up with the
Yeah.
old black and whites,
Oh my gosh.
from the Dick Van Dyke Show and the Honeymooners to Lucy. I love Lucy. I mean,
Yeah.
all of that. I grew up on
Yeah.
that physical comedy, that family comedy,
Yeah.
and I learned early on that you don't have to be. You can keep it clean and
Yeah.
be really really funny, and obviously we know some of the biggest comedians out there that have stayed clean. They're committed to that. They said,
Yeah.
man, it's a lot more creative when you can keep it clean. So
Yeah.
so I was, I've always been committed to that. And it does my best friend in the world since we grew up across the street from each other. He's the funniest guy I know. So when you talk about friendships and
Yeah.
what connects you, man, laughter is, the belly laughs that
Yeah.
roll when we get together is pretty awesome.
Oh, I'm sure it is. And if someone asked him, he'd probably say you're the funniest guy he knows. Let's
Hopefully.
hope so, at least. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. So, at what point did you realize in your younger years that, like, and I know you already said, like, you felt at some point this was like your life's going to be your life's work, your calling. This is what I
Yeah.
want to do for the rest of my life. Like, when did that really get clear to you? Was it coming out of high school, during college, or post college? Or was it just, or even sooner than that?
Great question, Chris. It was honestly, mine was plan A, plan B. My plan A was I want to make the NFL.
Oh,
And
wow.
So I played through school, went off to college, played some small college ball, got some tryouts, ended up going overseas and playing in Europe for a while, playing football. Um, and uh, but I think because it was interesting for career day in the eighth grade, everybody had to come dressed as who they wanted to be when they grew up. And, all the kids are in doctors and lawyers and, fitting the part. And I wore my regular clothes, rocking a t-shirt, and I'm like, I'm gonna be a comedian. And so, so when people had to get up and, give the little reason why, I told a couple of jokes. And so, so I think that was always plan B for me. I want to take football as far as I can. And then once I do, I'm going to set those cleats down and dive into this full time. And that's exactly what I did. So it was always there of something that I knew that I wanted to do, because obviously football is not going to last forever.
Right.
And I like coaching. I'm like you, Chris. I coach my son's teams. I coach football, basketball, all the things. And I enjoy that on a rec level. Never necessarily desired that on a higher level, because I'm like, I want to do what I'm doing now as a career,
Right.
and just have that as something I've always just had a passion for. So yeah, so I did that, man. I know this podcast talks a lot about fitness. That's a huge part of my story as well. When I was in LA chasing my dream in entertainment, I had a gym. I was a fitness trainer. I basically gutted an old warehouse, turned it into a personal training studio, and so that was my livelihood outside of all the industry work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think just from an early age I knew it. But once it was time, when I was like, okay, this is going to be my last season, of playing. I'm like, boom, let's go. And I just dove in full time into what I'm doing now. And it's like anything, right? It's your passion. And I think that God's gifted us all with that special talent or gifting.
Yeah.
And that is for a purpose, and the purpose is for others, right? It's, you get the reward of being, being provided for. God says, follow purpose, and, the provision will follow. There's that, but I think that as you realize what you do, and not only do you enjoy doing it, but you realize, more importantly, it's to serve other people with.
Yeah.
And when I go around and I get to go to these corporate functions or a faith-based event, that I am hopefully using the gift that God has given me to incite laughter and joy and true medicine, man. When you hear these people that go through all sorts of things, everybody's going through things, and more now than ever, Chris, people deal with high levels of anxiety and
Yeah.
stress.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a lot of on the mind. The enemy is there to discourage, bring anxiety, depression. And so, as you mentioned earlier, yeah, there's no better time than right now than to incite laughter. And what's cool with laughter is, because there is a trust that's connected to it, in a big way. The heart opens up.
Oh yeah.
And once that heart is open, I feel like we have a responsibility as Christians to then imprint something eternal, hopefully, that can be seared into the heart. And so, whether I'm teaming up with a faith-based event, which it's sort of my job to get everybody going and connected and laughing, then whoever that, whatever the message it is, whether it's a fundraising event, whether it's a faith-based church event that's honoring, volunteers, whatever it may be, it's like, hey, this is the setup. Now let them know, how valued they are, how seen they are, how loved they are by our Lord. So
Wow,
it's a cool thing.
fantastic. Well, we'll make sure, at the end of the conversation today, that we give everybody your platforms for, if there's somebody that works for a corporation, right, or some business, and then you can be basically hired, right, to come and present at a function of some kind. Is that's still a big part of your career?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And we'll obviously give you the 10% that we talked about ahead of time,
Okay.
for promoting me.
Yeah, I was tracking. I'm like, yeah, I remember that. I'm on it. So this is great, and obviously today we want to talk about your latest venture.
Yeah.
As I alluded to earlier with Kirk Cameron over there and Brave Books, and you're you're the mailman on Iggy and Mr. Kirk that was just released in the last couple of months. And it is that nice, wholesome kind of blend, as I said, of like Mr. Rogers meets the Muppets or
Yeah.
Sesame Street, if you will.
Yeah.
And, you know, I can think back fondly on how watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood made me feel as a kid. It made me feel heard. It made me feel like he really cared. Like he obviously had a heart for kids, because the messages that he would touch on, the topics, you had to intimately have an understanding of what was meaningful to a kid to be able to talk about those things. And the way that he did it, and he was, nobody had a bigger heart than Fred Rogers. Like, I mean, you go back and watch that old, I don't know if you, and I'm going to give this guy some love, because he kind of is he's the foundation, I think, for a lot of these, for this new show, but for a lot of this children's television that's so good out there in the world, like a Bluey, cartoon has become so big over the last several years, monstrous, right? And why? Well, because the messaging is so good and real and honest and pure and innocent, and all these things that are kind of escaping us in this world, in the social media age. And Fred Rogers has an old clip of him when he's presenting to, I think, to Congress or something, to
Yeah.
get a grant, to get money for
Yeah, same
PBS to do his show. And he had to describe his show and to be able to get funding. And they sat there and listened to him. And at the end, they're like, yeah, 100%, we're going to give you this money, because it sounds like what you're doing might be one of the most important things anybody can do.
Wow. Yeah.
And it was because he spoke from the heart, and he's so passionate about it. And it has to come from a place like that, where you're doing something that's very powerful and for kids. And I feel like when somebody's able to find that, and I think Iggy and Mr. Kirk is kind of in that realm of, you're doing it for all the right reasons. And it looks and sounds so great. I have a massive Coast Guard helicopter going overhead right now, but you probably can't hear that. We're right near an airport. So tell us, how did you come to get selected to be on this very special show with the legendary Kirk Cameron?
Sure. Yeah, I feel like it was a divine appointment. They were doing some fundraising for the show, because they wanted to do a very grassroots campaign to get the show off the ground. They didn't want any strings attached. Still don't, in terms of being influenced by a bigger streaming platform that would possibly try to manipulate the messaging.
Yep.
So they wanted to stay true to that. And with this little fundraising tour that they put together, they were looking to just bring maybe some energy to it, some fun, keep it very family. And so they hired me to MC the events. And so I started emceeing and sort of had this tag team, if you will, with Kirk Cameron and Trent Talbot, the owner, where I would come in and just have fun with the audience and just get them up and going and moving and laughing and playing some games with them. Again, kind of what we talked about, just that fully engaged, heart open. And then here comes Kirk and Trent to give a message of the heart of Brave Books and this new show. But no one's better at delivering that passionate message, because Kirk's so captivating when he speaks live. And this is his heart right now. He's a grandfather now, a new grandfather. And he said, man, this is my project that I'm all in with. And knowing the importance, because you talked about, Chris, the Mr. Rogers and his heart for children, and the simple message of you're seen, you're valued, you're loved. Well, unfortunately, the kid in media has in children's media in particular has been perverted in the last several years. And I didn't even know this, Chris, even though I have children. But working with Brave Books and understanding, wow, there's been all of these new characters inserted into to children's media, and it's not okay. It's twisted, it's backwards, and it's perverted. And so it calls for a show like Iggy and Mr. Kirk even more. And so by doing this fun stuff with them, we finished a little tour and they said, "Hey, we're still casting for our show. And in fact, we need a mailman. We're casting for, would you consider auditioning?" So I sent in an audition tape and he's the fun loving, very clumsy mailman. So there's a lot of physical comedy, which I grew up in and doing. And I'm like, yeah. So I sent him my tape and they said, "You got the role." And here we go. And next thing I know, I'm on the set down in College Station, Texas, filming 20 episodes of Iggy and Mr. Kirk. So I mean, very humble to do so. Obviously, working next to Kirk, who's been on the front lines of faith and media for so long.
Yeah.
Lee Allen Baker, who is known for her work on the Disney show Good Luck Charlie. She plays the mother on that show. Amy Duncan, I think her character name was. And I mean, and not to mention, Chris, I just have to, the puppets on Iggy and Mr. Kirk. I mean, Iggy's the star. And he's played by John Kennedy, the puppeteer John Kennedy. So he and the other featured puppet who is Culture the Vulture.
Yeah, Culture the Vulture.
Yeah, they both spent years working with Jim Henson on Sesame Street and other projects. So it is legit. I mean, I think it's a craft that you don't know until you know, like really what goes on behind the scenes of these puppets. They're amazing. They're at the top of their game, the highest professionalism in what they do, and it adds. I mean, it just brings this show to life. And so, but yeah, it's such good moral. I think it's when you talk about they say, you mentioned earlier, Mr. Rogers meets Sesame Street.
Yeah.
It really is. It brings things back to just making every episode and all the messaging about developing character in our kids.
Yeah.
From topics like, forgiveness, overcoming fear, putting others first, selflessness, all the great things that you want your kids to learn and know. And now they're able to follow little Iggy through his daily adventures in learning these lessons. And Mr. Kirk, who is played by Kirk Cameron, when you reference Fred Rogers, you're like, wow, like that guy kind of stands alone, and you would never think that role could be duplicated until you meet a Kirk Cameron,
Yeah.
and Kirk's not trying to be Fred Rogers, but
Right.
but just his heart and in the way that he communicates and the way that he talks to the children through the screen, the messaging is clear. And it's very nostalgic, man. When you watch this show, it's modernized, obviously, but they've the whole team at Brave have done a great job of, bringing the live action and bringing in the animation with it too, and the feedback is just tremendous so far.
Yeah.
The kids are loving it.
That's awesome to hear. Kirk just seems like such a genuinely great dude. I've obviously never met him outside of talking with him for like an hour on the podcast about a year and a half ago, and just Jared and I, another one of the hosts on the podcast, just really enjoyed his honesty. There's no facade. He's just another guy. He's another guy. And I have a quick story. I had no intention of sharing this, but I'm going to share it. I was at an event last year called Rise Up Con, put on by Kevin Sorbo in Tennessee, and we brought our whole podcast show to that event. It was the first annual event, and met a guy there who has a company called Go Fireside. I think it's Go Fireside. And he makes fire pits, homemade fire pits. He hand makes them. He was selling these things during COVID on the side of the road. He was manufacturing these things and selling them, handmade fire pits that you could create your own shell that basically went around them. There was 3 different panels that attached to the outside of the fire pit with different. You could have things written or images or kind of anything to personalize these fire pits. Really awesome, high quality things, stainless steel. and he's selling them. And for months, he's just on the roadside. And apparently, for months, Kirk had driven past this guy and seen these fire pits. And one day, he decided to stop. And he gets out, and he's talking to my buddy. And he doesn't know that it's Kirk Cameron. It's just this guy with I don't know, probably had a hat on and like a beard, and just he's like, "Hey, what do you got here?" And my my buddy's going off about how frustrated he is about this, that, and the other during COVID and all the rules and regulations and this, and he goes, "Okay, yeah, well, that's nice, but what are you selling? Like, tell me about your product." And he's like, "Oh, I really like it. It's like, maybe I'll share it with my following. I have a kind of a big following on Facebook." And he still doesn't know who this is. And then he shows him on Facebook. He sees like 3.5 million followers or 4, and he's like, who the heck are you? And he's like, "Oh, maybe you've heard of me. My name's Kirk Cameron, but it changed his whole trajectory of the guy's business, because he got Kirk's attention just by working hard, and Kirk just noticed this hardworking guy that had something that he liked. He likes campfires, and he likes smoking a cigar or having a whiskey by a fire, and it was just a really cool story to hear someone else tell you this story about this guy, and you're like, yeah, he seemed that way to me. He seemed like just a genuinely awesome dude who just kind of does things the right way. And so it's just such a cool aside, just to solidify who this guy is and what he stands for and what he's trying to do in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And not only a good guy, Chris, but a courageous man.
Yeah.
To take all of the heat that he has. I can't even imagine. I mean, his story is amazing, but being a young adult and having the world at your fingertips in terms of fame. He's a good looking young guy, and when he was the star of the show Growing Pains in the '80s. And then he has an encounter with Christ, and it changes his life to the point where he starts realizing the things around him aren't what he wants to be around, and he wants and it's such a shift. I mean, he's got a powerful testimony. You could find it pretty much anywhere,
right?
But it's a shift to then get into faith in media, which obviously that's a gifting of his to act and tell stories and all the things that he does. But to get, to hear all the backlash and people, whether it's the making fun of him, the jokes, the radical Jesus guy, to, this new adventure with Iggy Mr. Kirk, there was a lot of pushback there with his partnership with Brave Books, and he's met it, head on. And I just think that it's such an example of someone who doesn't fear this world. He fears God and says, I'm on a mission to do what God wants me to do.
Yeah.
And it's inspiring. And we need leadership like that we can all say, hey, if he can do it, I can do it. And let's get back to him. So for myself, it's certainly very humbling to be a part of this project with Kirk on board. And God is, you just know that he's in control. He makes no mistakes. For me to be a part of it, I'm like, wow, is this so cool? I'm doing a family show, which I grew up in, Christian family, doing comedy and singing and all the things, and just providing that entertainment. And here we are, man. It's just, he's still allowing me a chance to be able to do this in some capacity. Even if it's falling down the stairs every single episode as the clumsy mailman, I'm in it. I'm in it to win it, Chris.
Hey, man, everybody likes a clumsy mailman. You know what I mean?
Hey.
That's wonderful. And what's the response been? These last several weeks since the show aired. Now you said you've already filmed 20. Is it looking like you're going to be going back and filming more?
Man, just a little that I've heard from headquarters. They're eyeballing it already, not to jump ahead,
right?
Which is exciting, but I think just the initial response from what we're hearing now, we've only released the first season,
right?
Which everybody has access to through Brave Plus,
right?
But But yeah, we'll see what it looks like as we continue down the road. I think the fact that these parents are sitting down with their children and watching these episodes, having something to talk about, hopefully being encouraged as a parent to see how Mr. Kirk handles things in house.
Yep.
Each episode has a real child who calls in through the computerized tree that's in the treehouse, and they phone in, and we hear what they're going through, which a lot of kids can relate to. This is what I'm also going through, and so it's just a great tool for parents that they're like, wow, I feel comfortable with my kids sitting down in front of this, whether I'm with them or not.
Yep.
They're going to learn something of value. They're going to learn some biblical scripture in the midst of within the episode, and something you could talk about around the dinner table.
Yep.
And I just think that there's so much content now that is so almost stimulating in terms of just fast moving, and it's just trying to grab your kid's attention. This is a pace that is a little bit slower, and it just says, hey, let's talk, let's have these conversations. And like I said, they're gonna fall in love with Iggy. If they've not already seen, the kids are gonna fall in love with Iggy. He is just so likable. Yeah, I would encourage everyone to go check it out.
Iggy is a just so we're clear on what
Yeah.
he is. Now, he is an iguana?
An iguana.
Okay.
He's an iguana. Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
he's he has that Kermit vibe going, but he's got the little
Yes.
mohawk little doodads hanging.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty cool, man. Like I said, these puppeteers are the most talented guys.
Yeah.
So
They're just like they're like underneath out of the shot with their hands up in these things, or they're using sticks, however they're, guiding to move the puppet. And then they're also the voice of the puppet at the same time, right?
simultaneously, Chris.
Yeah.
They are, and each puppet's different. Some puppets you actually go into the mouth.
Yeah.
Others are with sticks.
Yep.
And then you have the sticks with the hands.
But
But each puppet, based on its creation, has different ways that you have to actually operate the puppet. But yes, they're doing this sometimes in a very contorted position.
I'm sure.
They're like this, but then they're looking at a monitor that's cut in fours. So they've got their eye lines of where they have to be toward camera, all the camera A, B, and C, and then you also have their lines that they're monitoring. So they have to know where the puppet is, the eye lines, the acting with the facial features of the puppet, act in their voice, read the lines. So and these guys, I mean, it's not just basic stuff. I mean, they're throwing things, they've got putting things on their head. I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
It's wild. And I think everybody there, including Kirk, we're looking at these guys and saying, man, our jobs are relatively easy.
They're the stars.
They're the stars. They're the stars. You're like, man, these guys, not to mention, I mean, just the stamina, of their shoulders,
right.
But it not to throw a plug away from Iggy and Kirk, but I watched the Disney's documentary on Jim Henson.
Oh,
and that gives you a little insight too of like how these guys operate. But I purposely watched that because I'm sort of I got to meet a couple of guys that Jim Henson worked with for so long.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty amazing. Just the talent and the craft that is so beyond excellent with these guys who are operating these puppets. So it was fun. And bonus, I got a lot of behind or off camera time with these guys, and to hear their stories over the years of all that they have seen and gone through, and and the story. Oh man, that was I love that in itself. So so cool.
It just makes the whole experience that much greater to have that history to tap into with those guys. It's so cool. What a special talent. What an opportunity that is. So where now you already said it. You said Brave Plus, right? It's braveplus.com is where people can go and see the first season.
Yes, braveplus.com. They can see right now, they can go there and see the first 5 episodes, but they can also unlock the entire season.
Wow.
And that's subscribing to Brave Plus. There's also, there's other content there. Again, all that it was in the umbrella, or falls under the umbrella of clean content. content. There's legendary, like famous shows on there that the kids and the parent, well, at least the parents will recognize. So yeah, that's a great investment in my opinion. Braveplus.com. And like I said, you'll get access to all 10. And it's, when you stream, man, you can, you're going to go through these episodes and then rewatch
Of course.
again.
And kids, if they like something, they'll watch it 25 times.
25 times. 25. You mentioned Bluey earlier. I
Right.
mean, my kids are 14, 11, and it's still, they're going back and watching all the episodes again.
My daughter's about to turn 10, and pretty much her whole life, because Bluey's been around now for about 7-8 years at least, right?
Yep.
So since she was a baby, she was watching these episodes, and my wife and I, they're short, they're 6 or 7 minutes long at most, and they get your attention because they're entertaining, the voices are great. And the storylines are usually terrific, and it's wholesome and clean and not provocative in any way. It's definitely family oriented, mom and dad with 2 girls, and living life and all the blunders and mishaps of life. I've been crying watching some of these freaking things. I mean, it's a cartoon, a kid's cartoon, and I'm sitting there going, looking at my wife, and we're sitting there, and my wife and I are criers, and it just
Absolutely.
it pulls at your heartstrings. But they really, and that's what I feel like what Iggy and Mr. Kirk are able to do, just in some of the clips and things that I've seen, and how powerful this can be for those 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old kids who are trying to make sense of life, and have some. Kids are just awesome, but they have some real issues and questions about things, and I think this can help them sort it out for sure.
Absolutely. And and I grew up, Chris, in the inner city of Indianapolis, and it was it wasn't very common to have a 2-parent household, but we were blessed enough to do so, and not only to have 2 parents in the home, but also be Christian family. So we were living pretty good compared to a lot of my friends who were single parent homes, just a lot of brokenness. And so, shows like this are great, whether you are from a 2-parent home and you're Christian home, but as I'm old school, I believe it takes a village.
Yep.
And so and you can't entertain your kids all day, and to have some content, they're going to sit down in front of the television at some point. It's like, man, what better place to put, to feel comfortable when they're not with you, to put them in front of is something like Iggy Mr. Kirk. Or if you're just, a single parent trying to do it, or your grandparents raising your grandkids. This is just some safe content. That is, again, you just feel great about, getting your kids in front of it, and learning something yourself along the way.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's fantastic. I'm so glad that you're on this project, that we were able to give it some love and give it some, some notoriety on our show, and spread it. And hopefully, we have a nice listenership, and hopefully we got some parents out there that are looking for some more good content for their kids. So braveplus.com for sure. And then, Danny, I know you got kids of your own. You got to go get them soon here. So, but before you go, where can people find more of your material, and possibly even have you come and do some performance comedy for them?
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, they can find me at IamDannyAdams.com. That easy. IamDannyAdams.com. I am a part of the Adams family, and the crazy Adams family. But yeah, they can invite me out. I do everything from company corporate events, where I'm doing, emceeing the event, awards nights, bringing the banquet entertainment, and I do a lot of church events as well. Fundraising, faith-based fundraising events is something I do quite a bit of. And so if you want some laughter and connection at your event, I love doing that.
You're the guy.
So thanks, Chris.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time and for the work that you're doing. And hope the show is a monstrous success, and you have to create some more seasons of content. And I look forward to watching the show. At least my daughter would be interested in watching it, I'm sure. My teenager son probably Probably, probably looking to do something with his buddies,
Yeah, right,
But,
right,
uh,
right.
but we'll see. But thank you so much, and listeners, thank you for supporting our show, for coming back every week and listening. And Lord knows we have a lot of fabulous content, over 400 episodes on the podcast, and we're just so grateful for you. And we'll be back as always here on Strong by Design. God bless you. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for listening to the Strong by Design podcast. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe so that more people can find out about our show. Plus, you don't want to miss any future episodes with the amazing guests and topics we have lined up for you.